Welcome to PA Centered, a podcast designed to help listeners be a part of the solution to end sexual harassment, abuse, and assault. Each episode, we will take on a topic or current event to help spark conversation and break down barriers to building communities free from sexual violence. Hi, I'm Jackie Strom, the Prevention and Resource Coordinator at the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. I'll be your host today as we're joined by Sarah McPherson, Program Manager at End Rape on Campus, or EROC, to learn about some of their new projects. Sarah has been working in violence prevention for 7 years, since getting her Master's of Social Work from Baylor University in 2014. After working in the community in Central Texas and in Title IX at Baylor, she moved back to Central PA and worked at the local DVSA center, CenterSafe, for 3 years before joining EROC in May. She also teaches for Baylor's online Master Social Work program. She lives in State College with her 2 kids, 2 cats, 1 dog, and many houseplants. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm happy to be here.
So I've been lucky enough to work with you for the last couple of years when you were working at CenterSafe in State College, Pennsylvania. And I know that me and other folks are just so excited that you are able to take your talents to EROC. And so I'm wondering, to get us started, if you could just tell us a bit about how End Rape on Campus got started and what you are all up to now.
Yeah, thank you. It's been interesting as, EROC was formed in 2013 as a survivor advocacy and action organization. And this is also pretty close to the time when I started working in the violence prevention movement as well in Central Texas. So my path and timeline has kind of interestingly come alongside that with EROC, and now I'm working here. In 2013, they, along with other organizations, started the hashtag ED Act Now, which is Department of Education, urging the Department of Ed to enforce the Dear Colleague letter of 2011, which was the letter to colleges aimed to clarify schools' role and responsibility under Title IX to prevent and respond to sexual assault on their campuses. And so at their beginnings, EROC was really aimed to help students directly file complaints to the Department of Ed. And it also led to the Obama administration to take some action and issuing another Dear Colleague letter in 2014. At its founding, EROC was really an advocacy organization, really dedicated to supporting and uplifting survivors. The aim was to help survivors directly and to shed light on the pandemic that is campus sexual assault. Folks will also remember, hopefully, the documentary The Hunting Ground, which featured the founders of End Rape on Campus. That was out in 2015. And it really opened up a lot of awareness for campus sexual assault and things like institutional betrayal and harm for survivors that goes beyond the assault itself. So EROC gained a lot of attention from that. Fast forward a little bit to the previous administration and Betsy DeVos as the head of the Department of Ed and rescinding the Dear Colleague letters and ultimately making changes to Title IX that ultimately harm survivors across the country. So EROC again was there advocating against those changes. EROC went through some leadership changes, and of course the COVID pandemic hits. EROC becomes a part of Civic Nation, which is this hub organization that houses several initiatives, including It's on Us and United State of Women, Made to Save. And that was just last year. So we've gone through some changes and growth and shifts, and thinking what are we up to now? I think EROC's having a little bit of an reintroduction to the world and the movement. Survivors are and always will be at the core and heart of what we do, though we're not as much like providing that direct support and helping students file with the Department of Ed, but have shifted to providing some different programming and focusing on our Centering the Margins framework that I know we'll talk about, continuing our advocacy in attempts to, hold folks in power accountable. And, recently, along with a handful of our partner organizations, we brought back that hashtag in light of the change of the administration. And again, with Biden and Harris, students returning to school this fall, entering into this double red zone when most campus sexual assaults occur. But we're asking the Department of Education, once again, to act now instead of later next spring, which was kind of their current timeline, to change the policies of the past administration and issue clear and strong guidance that centers survivors to schools so that, they have an idea of what their job is for survivors on campuses. So we have that petition going on right now, and inviting folks to go to edactnow.org and tell the U.S. Department of Education that survivors can't wait for these changes. So, yeah.
That's all really exciting, and sounds like the organization has accomplished so much in less than a decade.
Yeah, they've done a lot, and I'm excited to be a part of, moving forward in our future.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the Centering the Margins framework that you all use,
Yes.
and could you tell us more about that and how it really guides the work that you all do?
Yeah, so, and this is one of the things that really drew me to working with EROC. Centering the Margins is all about bringing to the forefront and to the center survivors who have typically been at the margins of the movement, as they've been historically and systematically marginalized. So we're thinking survivors of color, LGBTQ plus folks, immigrants, refugees, folks with disabilities and who are neurodiverse, formerly incarcerated folks, and more, anyone who's been marginalized and typically not had their voice heard in the movement, outside of the movement. With this, we're also trying to focus more on centering marginalized institutions as well. So historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities, because we know that addressing campus sexual assault looks different in these places and for folks in these communities than at predominantly white institutions that a lot of programs more cater to. So, we know, certainly, Jackie, the movement has always been tied to civil rights, and we know that movements against oppression have often been led by Black women and women of color, though a lot of times the records and the stories told in the movement don't always reflect that. But EROC is now led by two women of color, our executive director, Inura Param, and myself, and we really want everything we do to be led and guided by this idea, this framework. It's not, Centering the Margins is not its own specific program, but it's the building block of the work that we do and our approach to addressing campus sexual assault.
Yeah, it's such an important framework and one that I really wish more organizations would be utilizing.
Yeah, and I think, in the movement, and certainly things I've done with PCAR and at Center Safe before, we've been talking about these things, about the roots of oppression and how, in order to end sexual violence and relationship violence, you have to work at addressing all of the isms and taking an intersectional approach to this work. And so really it's about, at EROC, we're thinking, let's lead with that. Let's have that guide everything we do instead of being kind of an add-on to something we're thinking about. In addition to ending sexual violence, it's all at the forefront for us because for survivors at the margins, it is. You can't undo that thread that connects it. So,
yeah, I think I'm reflecting on, conversations we may have had in the past or, in Pennsylvania. And I think there is starting to be a push to really make sure that folks are using a framework like this. There's been lots of conversations, but I definitely want to encourage folks to take that next step of action and really leading the way that we say we want to be. Yeah. So hopefully folks can learn a lot from how EROC is doing it. And take that initiative because it's so important. Mm-hmm. So I know that you have a couple really cool projects happening right now, and I want to start by talking about the speaker series that you recently launched.
Yes. So again, I've come in as program manager and jumping into launching the programs. And we launched our speaker series. So in line with the Centering the Margins framework, we have to ask, who are the voices being heard in the movement? Who are the voices being listened to? In the last, again, 7 to 10 years, since Title IX and campus sexual assault have really become such a big focus for schools and communities. You see, a lot of mandatory trainings and presentations and all kinds of learning opportunities happening across the country, which is really great and something I don't remember happening when I was in undergrad. But we also want to make sure that it's not just about checking a box, and that we are creating and making these opportunities to engage with campuses and communities about these issues in more of a transformational and intersectional experience. So our speaker series essentially connects skilled trainers, presenters, activists to campuses and communities looking to learn more about relationship violence, and even more broadly than campus assault specifically. But we've got 6 incredible speakers who have a wealth of experience, both personally and professionally, that we're hoping to get out there to educate and train folks. Between the 6 of them, they cover like a wide variety of topics from sexual assault prevention, consent, survivorship, self-care, trauma, assault in the LGBTQ plus community, domestic violence, Title IX, a lot of different things. And so, we launched that and essentially are welcoming inquiries in and folks who want to bring any of our speakers to your campus or your community to be able to work with you to put together a great program.
It sounds like it could be really customized based on what universities and colleges need.
Yeah, I'll be the main contact and happy to kind of find out what you need, what your audience is, what you're looking for, and be able to match you with, the speaker who works best for that need. And all of our speakers are awesome. Just getting to know them myself. And if you follow us on social media, they've been doing some takeovers to introduce themselves, and we're hoping to put together a video to put out there also so that the world can get to know them and just really want to bring them to speak with you all.
I love that you said it's more about than just checking a box. And I really hope that universities and colleges will lean into that idea and be able to, maybe this is a jumping off point for them. But I know you have some other projects too that we can talk about where maybe students and survivors will be able to get involved. But first, before we get into that project, I know there's also a campus accountability map and tool in the works, and I would love for folks to hear more about that really exciting idea.
Yeah, so this, along with the speaker series, have been projects of EROC that have been in the works for a number of years and are coming to fruition now, which is exciting. But information is power. I think that's been true in my life personally, professionally. And we've seen that the power in shedding light and bringing facts and information to the front of the room has on creating real change in this movement and in most things. So the Campus Accountability Map and Tool is about transparency and information. So it's essentially an online tool that allows anybody to go on and view in-depth information about a school or institution's sexual assault investigation policies, their prevention efforts, the support that they have available to survivors and resources, as well as other like high-level statistics on definitions, trainings, sanctions, investigations. So it's really meant to house, in one place, all the information that someone might have looking to get about a campus and a school in relation to Title IX practice. The map also allows users to compare and contrast the metrics and data between schools to gain a better understanding of what these policies and practice looks like across the country, all with hopefully what will be to folks a user-friendly format and interface. So it's really intended as a resource for survivors, yes, and also for we could see prospective college students and their families looking to use it as another source of information when they're making decisions about schools or being better informed coming in, to the fall to campus, just to know what resources are out there and what's going on at their school.
I can see that being so incredibly helpful for definitely the two reasons you mentioned. I think if folks don't know where to turn or who to get help from on their campus or university, even though that information is supposed to be readily available for folks to access, it sounds like this hub will make it easy for folks to find resources to help themselves or their friends and family members. But also, I love the idea of it being used to help people make decisions about where they want to study. And I think might help parents and caregivers also feel a little bit better about knowing what resources might be available.
Yeah, I think a lot more people are thinking about these things when they're deciding on what school they want to go to, thinking about safety in all aspects. And hopefully by having kind of an outside source, we know schools have to offer up their Clery reports and data on number of assaults and things like that. But hopefully having, again, a useful tool that's put out by like an outside organization will be helpful. And, I can imagine alumni or current students using it as well to hold their schools accountable. Maybe policymakers as well, or other folks in the movement might be able to use it, use the map to show representatives data and information and to create like a full picture of what's going on across the country. So.
Yeah, I know the numbers that have to be reported. Sometimes there are issues with that of, history of places not actually giving the full picture because they kind of make up their own rules of what's like on campus or off campus or that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if there are any plans to address that using this tool.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. We're currently having a group of volunteers work with us and gathering all of the information that will be inputted and show up on the website when it's launching, which we're hoping will be this fall in October. So I've seen some of the images of what the webpage and websites will look like, and it looks really awesome. Lots of information on there. So we're excited. I'm sure there'll be, things we can adapt and edit as we get feedback from folks, but we're excited.
I will be so excited to see this community map when it's available. And so just want to remind folks, we're going to be linking to all of EROC's social media. And so if you want to follow them to stay up to date or sign up for their emails and newsletters, you can make sure you'll be one of the first folks to know when that map is available. All right, and then something else I would love for us to talk about is the Student Survivor Caucus that you have been planning.
Yes, so this has gone through a couple name changes. I think we're settled on Student Survivor Caucus. But this will be launching this fall, fingers crossed, September 1st. And the Student Survivor Caucus will be a group of 25 student survivors from across the country who will be joining together, meeting twice a month to learn together about advocacy, policy, support one another in a trauma-informed space, and really try to come up with the next big thing in addressing campus sexual assault. And again, this is in that centering the margins framework. And so we really hope to have student survivors from marginalized identities or campuses as well. And in thinking about the program, we think about there was a time before Title IX, there was a time before Clery, a time before EROC, a time before the 15th Amendment, a time before all of the policies and practice that have gotten us where we're at today. And there's always more improvements we can make. So we want to explore with an intersectional, centering the margins lens, like what are we before right now? So what is the policy or the prevention strategy or advocacy approach that is going to really create change for survivors, and particularly survivors at the margins? And we think that to figure that out, you have to empower and involve and work alongside survivors directly. And that it's not just about, us wanting to be able to speak for them. It's about listening to them and providing spaces and platforms for their voices and ideas to be heard. And with the platform that EROC has, thinking we can pull together some great guest speakers to come in with this group and teach about how to advocate and what sort of change is possible, and really come up with that idea and work to enact it all at the same time too. Yeah.
It's making me think back, having watched The Hunting Ground and been able to see how powerful students can be when they work together to really make changes on their campuses. And I feel like this could be the start of something really, really wonderful, because you're going to have folks connected from all over the country, not just like one campus or one place.
Yeah, I definitely. And I think, in my experience doing this work, that a lot of my hope in the movement comes from survivors and working and hearing from them directly. Their strength, their resilience, the way they demand to be heard and demand accountability of their institutions and the people doing harm. And we, in all things, we have to listen to them and be guided by them. And so, yeah, I'm excited to get to work closely with this group of student survivors that is out there now, and to listen to what they have to say and to find ways to bring their ideas to life.
So how can survivors who are interested get involved?
So when this comes out, our applications should be out there in the world. We're launching early September, and we'll have a couple weeks that we'll be taking in applications, and it'll explain the whole process. We'll have the syllabus out there as well, so that folks know coming in like what the commitment is and what the program is going to look like. We know college students are exceptionally busy at all times, and just want any survivors to have all the information going in if this is something they'll be interested in. So we'll be putting it out there, website, social media, all the places.
So I know this project in particular, you were kind of presented with a loose idea, and you've been able to conceptualize it and, plan it and bring it into fruition. And so I'm wondering, what are some of your hopes and dreams for this program, and what you see like a year from now? What are you hoping to have happened?
Yeah, so we're calling it like a pilot year of this program, because it's been just putting ideas down on paper and a big part of this that's important to me is that it's participatory and that it's kind of an emergent program where we're creating the framework, we're creating the syllabus, we're gonna have an idea of what we're doing and what we want to do. And we also want to make sure these 25 folks joining us have a say in what that looks like. We know, especially with survivors, that we want to create spaces that give back as much power and control in all things. And so, again, the whole idea is that I don't have the answers myself. EROC doesn't have all the answers. So we don't know all the questions to ask, but hoping that survivors will come alongside us and help steer this program from, big picture stuff to the details. And hopefully kind of come the end of the academic year, we have a better picture of what that is. And we've talked about wanting to do like a big in-person summit maybe next summer when hopefully COVID is under better wrap, but wanting to create more spaces and maybe we can grow this. We know that the United States is a big place and maybe there'll be regional groups or something, but I think there's a lot of possibility in where this could go, guided by the survivors that get involved with us.
Absolutely. And there is so much power in having a collective of folks who can be working together. So I am so excited to see where this project goes. And yeah, you can definitely sign up if you're interested and want to be involved.
Yes.
Great. So is there anything else that you want to share with us about EROC or what folks should know about how to get involved, stay in touch?
Yeah, please follow us. We're at End Rape on Campus, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can sign up on our website for emails that we put out as well, announcing things or any calls for volunteers. So that's a great way to stay in touch with what we have going on. And you're welcome to reach out to us if you've got ideas or things that you're seeing. We're happy to talk with folks and hear from survivors, certainly. Yeah.
Great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us to talk about all of the work that is happening at End Rape on Campus and letting folks know how they can get involved.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It's great to talk with you.
You too. All right, that's all the time we have today, but thanks for listening to this episode of PA Centered. You can learn more at endrapeoncampus.org. If you or a loved one needs help, a local sexual assault center is available 24/7. Call 1-888-772-7227 for more information or find your local center online at pcar.org. Together, we can end sexual violence. Any views or opinions expressed on PA Centered by staff or their guests are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of PCAR or PCAR's funders.